After 70, I stopped doing 5 things for my children. And for the first time in my life, they finally respect me. My dear friends, I want to tell you something that took me over 7 decades to understand. For most of my life, I believed that being a good parent meant giving endlessly. I believed that love meant sacrifice without limit. I believed that if I gave enough, forgave enough, and rescued enough, my children would love me more, respect me more, and appreciate everything I had done for them. I was wrong. I spent years pouring myself into my children's lives, and somewhere along the way, I lost myself completely. I became someone who existed only to serve, only to fix, only to please. And the more I gave, the less they seemed to notice. The more I sacrificed, the more it seemed expected. Respect, I learned much too late, is not something you earn by giving everything away. Respect is something you earn by knowing what you will no longer give. So today, I want to share with you the 5 things I stopped doing for my children after I turned 70. Things that, once I let them go, changed everything. My children did not walk away. They did not abandon me the way I feared they might. Instead, something remarkable happened. They started calling more. They started listening more. They started treating me not as someone to lean on endlessly, but as someone to honor. If you are a parent, a grandparent, or someone who has spent your whole life giving to people who forgot to give anything back, I hope these words find you at the right moment. Because it is never too late to reclaim your peace. It is never too late to teach the people you love how to treat you. Let me walk you through what I learned. For most of my life, whenever one of my children faced a difficulty, I was there before they even finished explaining it. A financial problem, a conflict at work, a disagreement with a spouse. I would step in immediately. I would offer money. I would offer advice. I would offer my own comfort as a cushion for their discomfort. I thought this was love. I thought a good parent never lets their child struggle. But what I did not understand was this. Every time I solved a problem for my child, I quietly told them something I never meant to say. I told them they were not capable. I told them that struggle was something to be rescued from, not something to grow through. And slowly, without realizing it, I raised adults who called me not out of love, but out of habit. They called when they needed something, not when they wanted to share something. After 70, I stopped rushing in. When my son called with a problem at his job, I listened. I asked questions, but I did not offer to fix it. I did not offer money before he asked. I let the silence sit there, uncomfortable as it was, and I let him find his own way through it. It was one of the hardest things I have ever done, because every instinct in me wanted to save him from discomfort. But here is what I learned. When you stop rescuing people, you stop enabling their dependence, and you start inviting their growth. My son called me back 3 days later, not for money, not for advice, but simply to tell me he had solved it himself. There was something different in his voice. Pride, confidence, and underneath it, something I had not heard in years, respect. You do not build respect by proving how useful you are. You build respect by trusting the people you love enough to let them stand on their own feet. A parent who solves everything raises a child who expects everything. A parent who steps back raises a child who learns to stand. For decades, I explained myself constantly. If I wanted to spend money on something for myself, I explained why. If I wanted to spend a weekend alone instead of visiting, I explained why. If I made a choice about my own home, my own health, my own life, I felt the need to justify it to my children as though I still needed their permission to live my own life. I did not realize what this was doing. Every explanation I offered quietly told my children that my life required their approval. And children, even grown children, will take whatever position you give them. If you position yourself as someone who must explain their choices, they will position themselves as the ones who judge those choices. After 70, I stopped explaining. When my daughter asked why I was selling the house she grew up in, I simply said, because it is what I want to do. No long justification. No defending my reasoning point by point. Just a calm, clear statement of my own truth. At first, this confused her. She pushed back. She asked more questions, expecting the old version of me who would eventually cave under enough pressure and give a full explanation. But I did not cave. I stayed calm. I stayed kind. But I did not surrender my peace by re-explaining myself over and over. And do you know what happened? She stopped pushing. Not because she was angry, but because she realized something had changed in me. I was no longer a person who needed her approval to live my life. And strangely, that made her respect my decisions more, not less. People do not respect those who constantly justify themselves. They respect those who are settled in their own truth. My friends, you do not owe endless explanations to anyone. not even to the children you raised with your whole heart. A short, honest answer, delivered with calm confidence, will always earn more respect than a long, anxious justification. I used to believe that being a good parent meant being reachable at all hours, for all reasons, no matter how small. If my phone rang, I answered, even during dinner, even during rest, even during moments meant only for myself. I trained my children, without meaning to, that my time held no boundaries, that I existed on standby, waiting for whenever they might need me. This is a heavy way to live, and it is not sustainable, especially as the years accumulate and your own body and mind ask for more care, more rest, more stillness. After 70, I began protecting my time the way I once protected theirs when they were small. I stopped answering every call the instant it came in. I let some calls go to voicemail if I was resting, reading, or simply sitting quietly with my own thoughts. I began telling my children directly, "I will call you back this evening," instead of dropping everything the moment they reached out. I want to be honest with you. At first, this felt like a betrayal of everything I believed about being a parent. I felt guilty. I felt as though I was failing them by choosing my own peace over their immediate convenience. But slowly, I began to see something important. My constant availability had never made them value my time. It had only taught them that my time was infinite, and therefore worth very little. When I began protecting my hours, something shifted. My children began planning their calls with more intention. They began asking, "Do you have a few minutes to talk, or should I call later?" Instead of assuming I would always drop everything. That single question, small as it sounds, was one of the clearest signs of respect I had received from them in years. Your time, my friends, no matter your age, is not an unlimited resource that everyone else is entitled to access whenever they wish. Your evenings, your quiet mornings, your moments of rest, these belong to you. When you protect them, you are not being selfish. You are teaching the people around you that your life still has value beyond what you can offer them. This may be the hardest one to speak about honestly, but I believe it matters most. For many years, I gave my children money whenever they asked. A little help here, a loan there, money for this expense or that emergency. I told myself I was simply being generous, being a supportive parent. But over time, I began to notice something troubling. The requests did not decrease as my children became more financially stable. They increased. I had, without realizing it, become a financial safety net so reliable that responsibility no longer felt necessary. Why budget carefully when mom or dad would always help close the gap? Why plan ahead when a phone call could solve most problems? After 70, with my own retirement, my own health needs, and my own future to consider, I finally understood something painful but true. Every dollar I gave away without boundaries was a dollar I could not use to care for myself in the years I have left. And more importantly, every dollar given without limits was quietly teaching my children that my resources existed for their comfort, not for my own security. I began saying no. Not cruelly, not coldly, but firmly. When my youngest asked for help covering an unexpected expense, I told him, "I love you, and I believe in your ability to handle this yourself." It was uncomfortable. It felt, in that moment, like withholding love. But it was not. It was redirecting love towards something more lasting, his own capability. In the months that followed, something changed in how my children spoke to me. They stopped treating conversations with me as opportunities for financial requests. They began asking about my health, my days, my thoughts, the things a relationship should actually be built on. When you stop being a wallet, people are forced to discover whether they actually want a relationship with you as a person. My friends, generosity is a beautiful gift, but generosity without boundaries teaches people that your resources, and by extension, you yourself, exist to be used rather than valued. Protecting what you have built over a lifetime is not selfishness in your later years. It is wisdom. This last one may be the most important of all. For most of my life, when my children spoke to me sharply, dismissed my feelings, or treated my opinions as irrelevant simply because I was older, I stayed quiet. I told myself I was choosing peace. I told myself that arguing with my own children was not worth the conflict. I swallowed comments that hurt me. I laughed off remarks that diminished me. I told myself this was simply what parents do, that we absorb whatever our children give us because our love is unconditional. But there is a difference, my friends, between unconditional love and unconditional tolerance of disrespect. Love does not require you to accept being spoken to carelessly. Love does not require you to shrink yourself so someone else can feel comfortable dismissing you. After 70, I stopped staying silent. When my daughter once spoke to me in a tone that dismissed my feelings entirely, I did not raise my voice, and I did not lecture her. I simply said, calmly, I will not continue this conversation if you speak to me that way. Call me back when you are ready to speak with respect." And then, gently, I ended the call. She was surprised, perhaps even a little offended in that moment. But something happened that had never happened before. She called back an hour later, and her voice had changed entirely. She apologized. Not because I had demanded it, but because my calm boundary had shown her something she had not considered, that my patience was not infinite, and my presence in her life was not something she should take for granted. You see, my friends, disrespect does not disappear because you tolerate it quietly. Disrespect grows in exactly the space you allow it to occupy. The moment you stop making room for it, it either transforms or it fades away entirely. Either way, your peace remains intact. When I stopped doing these 5 things, something inside me shifted first, before anything shifted between me and my children. I stopped feeling like a servant to their needs and started feeling like a person again, a whole person with my own preferences, my own boundaries, and my own worth that did not depend on how much I gave away. I want to be honest with you. This transformation did not happen overnight, and it was not comfortable. Old habits do not release their grip easily, especially habits built over decades of believing that love and sacrifice were the same thing. There were nights I doubted myself. There were moments I feared I had become cold, or selfish, or unkind. I want you to know, if you are walking the same path, those feelings of doubt are normal. They do not mean you are doing something wrong. They simply mean you are doing something different from what you have always done, and anything unfamiliar feels uncomfortable at first. But my friends, I want you to consider something important. Every time I gave without boundaries, every time I explained myself endlessly, every time I made myself endlessly available, every time I gave money without limits, and every time I accepted disrespect quietly, I was not actually building closer relationships with my children. I was building relationships based on my usefulness rather than my worth. And usefulness, unlike genuine love and respect, always has a ceiling. Eventually, either your energy runs out, or the relationship built only on what you provide begins to feel hollow to everyone involved, including you. When I began setting boundaries, I was not choosing to love my children less. I was choosing to teach them what real respect looks like, both how to give it and how to expect it in return, from me and from everyone else in their lives. Because here is a truth I have come to believe deeply in my later years. The boundaries we set for ourselves become the model our children carry into every other relationship they will ever have. If I teach my children that my time, my resources, and my peace can be taken without limit, I am not just shaping how they treat me. I am shaping how they may allow others to treat them, or how they may treat others, for the rest of their lives. I know some of you listening today may be thinking, but what if my children pull away? What if setting these boundaries costs me the relationship I have spent my whole life building? I understand this fear completely, because I lived inside it for years. It kept me silent when I should have spoken. It kept me giving when I should have paused. It kept me available when I desperately needed rest. But let me share something I have come to believe with complete certainty. A relationship that only survives because you offer no boundaries was never truly secure to begin with. It was simply comfortable for the other person, not necessarily healthy for either of you. The children who truly love you, the ones capable of real respect, will not disappear when you finally value yourself. They may be surprised at first. They may even resist a little, the way anyone resists change, even change for the better. But in time, if the love between you is genuine, they will adjust. They will come to understand and even admire the new version of you, the version who finally understands that a parent's worth does not shrink with age, and that respect is not something you should have to earn through endless self-sacrifice. And if, in the rare and painful case, a relationship does not survive your boundaries, I want you to consider something difficult but important. A relationship that only continues under the condition of your constant self-erasure was never fully honoring you as a person in the first place. That is a painful truth, but sometimes the most painful truths are also the most freeing. I want to speak honestly about guilt, because I know it will visit many of you the way it visited me. Guilt whispered to me constantly during this transformation. It told me I was becoming a worse parent, a colder person, someone less loving than I used to be. I want you to know something clearly. Guilt is not always a signal that you are doing something wrong. Sometimes, guilt is simply the discomfort of unlearning old patterns that were never healthy to begin with, even if they felt familiar and safe. Guilt told me that loving parents give without limits. But experience has taught me something different. Loving parents model self-respect. Loving parents show their children what a whole, secure, dignified life looks like, not a life spent in endless service to others at the total expense of the self. When guilt arises, and it will, I encourage you to ask yourself a simple question. Am I feeling guilty because I have truly done something wrong, Or am I feeling guilty simply because I am doing something new and unfamiliar? Most of the time, my friends, you will find it is the second reason, not the first. I promised you at the beginning of this message that my children finally respect me now, and I want to tell you honestly what that respect looks like in daily life, because it is not loud and it is not dramatic. It shows up in small, quiet ways that mean more to me than anything grand ever could. My children call now not because they need something, but because they want to hear my voice. They ask about my day before they mention their own problems. They ask my opinion, not because they need my permission, but because they have come to value my perspective as something earned through a long life, not something to be dismissed because of my age. They plan visits around my schedule instead of expecting me to rearrange my life around theirs. And when disagreements arise, and they still do, because no relationship is without friction, they speak to me with a tone of respect that was, honestly, sometimes missing in earlier years. This did not happen because I demanded it. It did not happen because I gave a speech about how I deserved better treatment. It happened simply because I stopped accepting less than I deserved, and in doing so, I quietly taught the people I love most what genuine respect actually requires. My dear friends, if you are past 60, past 70, or approaching those years, I want you to hear this clearly. Your worth does not diminish with age. Your value does not shrink because your children have grown into adults with their own lives. You do not have to earn love through endless sacrifice, and you certainly do not have to earn respect by disappearing into the needs of everyone around you. It is not too late to change how you are treated. It is not too late to reclaim your time, your resources, your voice, and your peace. The relationships that matter, the ones built on real love rather than convenience, will not only survive this change, they will deepen because of it. Stop rescuing people from every struggle. Stop explaining yourself endlessly. Stop being available every moment for every reason. Stop giving financially without boundaries. And stop accepting disrespect in the name of keeping peace. These 5 changes did not cost me my children's love. They gave me back my own life, and in return, they gave me something I had been missing for decades: genuine, quiet, unforced respect. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If these words touch something inside you, I hope you carry them forward into your own life, at whatever age you find yourself. You still have time to change how you are treated. You still have time to reclaim your peace. And you still have every right to be respected, not because you gave everything away, but simply because of who you are. This has been Life Mastery 60+. Until next time, take good care of yourself, protect your peace, and remember that it is never too late to stand a little taller in your own life.